Assalamualaikum. My name is Dr. Mohammed Numan. I'm here to present some common law urinary infections. This is basically an overview. The table of contents is urethritis, prostatitis, cystitis, bladder pain syndrome, and chronic pelvic pain syndrome. We will go sequentially. Urethritis is the inflammation of urethra, the most common manifestation of sexually transmitted disease among men. The Neisseria, gonorrhea, and chlamydia trachomatis are commonly identified in cases of urethritis, and Mycoplasma genitalium has also been increasingly recognized as an important cause of urethritis. And because Neisseria gonorrhea is easily visualized on gram stain, and which has classically been the primary mode for evaluating the urethral discharge in men, and urethritis is traditionally classified as gonococcal versus non-gonococcal in setting where microscopy is performed. Gonococcal urethritis caused by the Neisseria gonorrhea co-infection with other sexually transmitted pathogens are common, and Neisseria meningitis has also been reported as a cause of symptomatic urethritis, clinically and macroscopically similar to the gonococcal urethritis in men. In such cases, the sources of infection may be from asymptomatic carriage of organism in the throat or after an oral sex partner and other unhygienic intercourse. Non-gonococcal urethritis, the chlamydia trachomatis is generally the most commonly identified cause, and Mycoplasma genitalium, the second most common cause. Almost half of the all causes of non-gonococcal urethritis don't have the specific etiology. Some of the studies suggest there is an association between non-gonococcal urethritis in men who have sex with men and the bacteria associated with bacterial vaginosis. The sexual practices may contribute to differentiating the causative organisms between the man who was having the sex. Another organism, Treponema pallidum, presents as an endourethral syphilitic chancre, may also lead to the clinical urethritis. Haemophilus influenza may be transmitted through the respiratory secretions from the carrier during the sex. The role of Ureaplasma ureaticum and Ureaplasma parvum as urethral pathogens is unclear, since these organisms can also be found as commensals in host with no evidence of disease. The clinical manifestations, the most common and chief complaint are dysuria. Another complaints are pruritus, burning, discharge at the urethral meatus. The urethral discharge can range from mucoid or watery to frankly purulent and may be present throughout the day or may be scanty and only present in the first morning void. Some men notice grossly visible mucus thread in their morning urine stream. The incubation period is variable, but typically 4 to 7 days after the exposure of the gonococcal urethritis and 5 to 8 days for the non-gonococcal urethritis. On examination, there is a discharge, may be grossly evident and detectable after gentle stripping or milking of the penile urethra. And the urethra can be milked. How to milk the urethra to express the urethral secretions? By putting from the base of meatus by placing the gloved thumb along the ventral surface of base of the penis and the forefinger on the dorsum and applying gentle pressure, moving the hand slowly toward the meatus to expel any discharge for specimen collection. The meatus may appear inflamed or edematous, and the gram staining may apply on the secretions to identify the polymorphonucleosides and the organisms. Certain clinical features can suggest, like the many etiologies, like acute presentation of frankly purulent urethral discharge is suggestive of but not definitive of gonorrhea. Patients with dysuria alone are more likely to have the chlamydial infection, and dysuria accompanied with painful genital ulcers, most likely to have the genital herpes simplex virus. If there is a chancre, there is a Treponema pallidum, and patient with herpes simplex virus may also have the fever, tender local inguinal lymphadenopathy, and a headache. Diagnostic criteria: patient may have the one of the following findings: mucopurulent or purulent discharge on examination, more than 2 white blood cells per oil immersion field from the gram stain of urethral swab, and positive leukocyte esterase on urine dipstick test, or presence of more than 10 WBC as per high power field of the first white or first cat spun urine. How to perform a gram staining? A specimen gram stain can be collected from the expressed urethral discharge or from the inside of urethra. The swab should be inserted gently at least 2 cm in the urethra and rotated 360 degree while making contact with the urethral mucosa. Taking care not to force the tip past any obstruction. The swab can then be rolled across the clean microscope for air drying and gram stain evaluation. The presence of polymorph neutrophils without any visible organisms is consistent with non-gonococcal urethritis, and when we see the diplococci, this is the gonococcal infection. The first white urine urethritis is suggested by a positive leukocyte assays on a dipstick test. Inspection for WBC can be performed by spinning 10 to 15 ml of urine and examining the sediment microscopically. The urine sample is also used for the nucleic acid amplification test for identification of involved pathogen. The optimal first white urine, which refers the initial portion of the first urinary stream after awakening, collected without pre-cleaning the urethral meatus. However, the collection of the first white urine at the point of care is impractical, so most practitioners request a first catch urine, which refers to the initial portion of urinary stream, generally first 10 to 20 ml, collected without pre-cleaning the urethral meatus and at least 1 hour after the previous micturition. Some small studies suggest that the urine collected 20 minutes post-white has near equivalent sensitivity for chlamydia trachomatis by nucleic acid amplification testing as 1 hour post-white sample. This is the basically algorithm or flow sheet to approach a male patient with the suspected urethritis. If the patient has symptoms, you should have the first white or catch urine and apply the nuclear acid amplification test. You can find Neisseria, gonorrhea, chlamydia, trachomatis. Point of care first white test for urethral secretions. If there are more than 2 WBC and intracellular diplococci, treat for the gonorrhea. If less no, if 2 WBC without any diplococci, urethritis diagnosed, but the etiology is non-gonococcal urethritis. And if you cannot find anything, mucopollulant discharge only or positive leukocyte esterase test of more than WBC. This is high suspicion if the patient is not having any intracellular diplococci and only the more than 2 WBC, and we are having the high suspicion of gonococcal infection. We can treat with the gonorrhea regime and plus the chlamydia trachomatis. If there is no high suspicion, then we can treat for non-gonococcal infection, or we can apply the nucleic acid amplification test. For if it is subsequent positive, after repeating the test, we should treat with the gonorrhea for gonococcal urethritis. If not, then there is no further treatment required. If there is a high risk of STI and loss to follow-up, patient if there is no high risk of STI, very low suspicion of urethritis, defer the treatment and apply the nucleic acid amplification test to identify the cause. If there is no cause, then no need to treat. And if there is a possible urethritis, treat the regime that provides gonococcal and chlamydia trachomatis coverage, both coverage. Treatment in men, the symptom of urethritis who have microscopic evidence of gonococcal urethritis or highly clinical suspicion of infection. The regime is single intramuscular dose of ceftriaxone, 500 milligram for individual less than 150 kg or 1 gram for individual more than or equal to 150 kg. If it has not been ruled out at the time of treatment, presumptive treatment for chlamydia. For patients with non-gonococcal urethritis, when there is no microscopy or laboratory and evidence of Neisseria gonorrhea, we suggest single dose of azithromycin 1 gram or doxycycline 100 milligram twice daily for 7 days is also an effective alternate for chlamydia trachomatis, but less effective for Mycoplasma genitalium. In the event that is microbial diagnostic testing are available prior to the patient receipt of therapy, antimicrobial treatment can be directed towards the identified pathogen after having the cultures, tracing the culture and having the sensitivity. The patients who are having the recurrent and persistent symptoms are common following therapy of urethritis. Possible cause and the recurrence may be due to the poor compliance to the regime, reinfection, antimicrobial resistance, likely in the Neisseria gonorrhea, and involvement of other organisms, co-infection with Mycoplasma genitalium and chlamydia trachomatis. In order to decrease the transmission risk, men with infectious urethritis should be instructed to refrain from the sexual activity for at least 7 days following the initiation of therapy. And when with Neisseria gonorrhea or trachomatis, infection should undergo repeat testing 3 months after the treatment to evaluate the reinfection. Sexual contacts of the patient who is diagnosed with urethritis warrants evaluation and treatment for STI infection. And if no test results are available, then the same empiric therapy is prescribed for the contacts of the patient. The second point in the contents of cystitis, it is that if infection of the lower urinary tract, especially the urinary bladder, may be broadly categorized into the uncomplicated and complicated. Uncomplicated refers to the lower urinary tract infection in either men or non-pregnant women who are otherwise healthy. And complicated cystitis, on the other hand, is associated with a risk factor that increases the risk of infection or risk of failing the antibiotic therapy. No, and there are another cause non-infective cystitis. It is after the pelvic radiotherapy, radiation cystitis, which can lead to the mucosal telangiectasia, which can be seen by cystoscopically, and drug-induced cystitis, like after cyclophosphamide, ketamine, and tetracycline BCG, and bladder pain syndrome or interstitial cystitis. Etiology: the most common cause of UTI, low urinary tract symptom, the E. coli, in women accounting for the 75 to 95% of cases. And other etiologies are Enterobacteria family like Proteus mirabilis, Klebsiella pneumoniae, and Staphylococcus saprophyticus. E. coli is the most common microbial pathogen. The pathophysiology: cystitis usually develops after the colonization of the periurethral mucosa by bacteria from the fecal or vaginal flora and ascending of such pathogen to the urinary bladder. And uropathogen, they have the specific virulence factor like type 1 or P. pili, which adhere to the low urinary tract mucosa. Impairment of the immune system and the voiding dysfunction from autonomic neuropathy may predispose the patient with diabetes to develop UTI. In renal insufficiency, accumulation of uremic toxins may reduce the host defense and decrease the renal blood flow, may impair the antimicrobial clearance. And the kidney stone can also be the nidus for the infection. In the setting of urinary catheterization, internal and external biofilm may form on the catheter, and pathogens may persist in retained pools of urine in the urinary bladder. How do you evaluate? In cystitis, there is less likely you can find anything on the physical examination, except for the signs of if there is a sepsis. On the urine analysis, you can find on detailed urine examination, you can see the WBC, leukocyte esterase, and pyuria more than 10 WBC per high bar field, dipstick cells or leukocyte esterase, and the female patients who are of childbearing age, you should rule out the pregnancy. Patients who have complicated cystitis and do not respond to the antibiotic therapy 48 to 70 hours after will require further evaluation by radiographic imaging of the upper urinary tract, like CT. The management, these are the drugs: nitrofurantoin 100 milligram twice a day for 5 days, trimethoprim sulfamethoxazole double strand twice a day for 3 days, fosfomycin 3 gram as a single oral dose, and pimecillinum 400 milligram twice a day for 5 to 7 days if available. Nitrofurantoin should not be used in a patient with creatinine clearance less than 30 ml per minute. And trimethoprim sulfamethoxazole must be avoided in the places where the renal resistance is greater than 20%. And the suspicion of pyelonephritis or complicated UTI also precludes the use of nitrofurantoin fosfomycin because of the poor penetration in the renal tissue. There are alternative second-line regime like 5 to 7 day course of beta-lactam with clavulanic acid twice daily, cefopodoxime 100 milligram twice daily, cefidinide 300 milligram twice daily, and cefadroxil 500 milligram twice daily, or cephalexin 500 milligram twice daily. And the last one is a very less studied drug. If beta-lactam agents are contraindicated, fluoroquinolone such as ciprofloxacin or levofloxacin for 3 days or more can be used. Urine culture and sensitivity is required in a patient who are having the previous multi-drug resistance organism, and they have to stay in the healthcare facility. And for the recent travelers who have the high prevalence of multi-drug resistant organisms or recent use of broad spectrum antibiotics past 3 months. However, the DD of all these things, they are differentials of each other: vaginitis, urethritis, and if there is a vaginitis, there should be a vaginal discharge, dyspareunia, pruritus, and cause included the bacterial vaginosis, trichomonas, and yeast infection. And the painful bladder syndrome may be considered in the patient with the persistent symptom of bladder discomfort with no evidence of infectious etiology. However, the painful bladder syndrome is a diagnosis of exclusion. In men with the lower UTI symptom, prostatitis should be excluded or ruled out. A patient who have the fever, malaise, perennial pain, or obstructive urinary symptom. Recurrent UTI in male patient is highly suspicious of bacterial prostatitis. The next one is prostatitis is subject to various inflammatory disorders. One of these syndromes is acute bacterial prostatitis, is the acute infection of prostate, usually caused by the gram-negative organisms. The clinical presentation is generally well-defined. Antimicrobial therapy remains the mainstay for the treatment. The NH classification has divided the prostatitis in the 4 categories: acute bacterial prostatitis, chronic bacterial prostatitis, chronic pelvic pain syndrome, which is the other name is chronic A bacterial prostatitis. Further divided into 2 categories: 3A, 3B, inflammatory and non-inflammatory chronic pelvic pain syndrome. And the 4th one is asymptomatic inflammatory prostatitis, which can be diagnosed on histology. The pathogenesis is the same for the lower tract symptom. The organism they host the urethral mucosa and then ascend into the towards the prostate and the bladder. Into the prostate gland almost always occur by the urethra. Most cases, bacteria migrate from the urethra or bladder through the prostatic ducts with intraprostatic reflux of urine. As a result, there may be the concomitant infection of bladder and epididymis. Uropathogens, pathogenic bacterial isolates that cause the prostatitis may have the higher accumulation of specialized urinous factors than those involved in cystitis alone. And acute prostatitis can also occur from the direct inoculation after transrectal prostate biopsy and transurethral manipulation, indwelling catheter, recurrent catheterization. Pathophysiology, the bacterial prostatitis, the commonest infective pathogens is gram-negative Enterobacteriaceae family. E. coli in 80% of cases, another 20% Klebsiella, Proteus, and Pseudomonas, and some other bacteria. Where both type 1 and P. pili are important in bacterial virulence factors that facilitates the infection. 5 to 10% of the infection are caused by the gram-negative bacteria like Staph aureus or Saprophyticus, Enterobacteriaceae faecalis. Acute prostatitis is secondary to the infected urine, is reflecting into the prostatic ducts that drain into the posterior urethra. The resulting edema and inflammation may then obstruct the prostatic ducts, trapping uropathogen and causing the progression of towards the chronic bacterial prostatitis in the 75% of the cases. Inflammatory and non-inflammatory prostatitis, also named as the chronic pelvic pain syndrome or prostatic pain syndrome. The underlying etiology is not fully understood, but is likely to the multifactorial. The multidisciplinary approach to pelvic pain research project. This research project for scoring the inflammatory and non-inflammatory prostatitis. Essentially, the patient may have the predominance of certain symptoms, conditions that features their disease suggestive of the main underlying etiology. For example, neurological causes, endocrine, immunological, infectious, neuromuscular, and psychosocial components. The research project is under research. This study aims to identify the potential biomarkers relating to these clinical phenotypes, which will ultimately help in the future to diagnose the patient and direct patient-specific management. The epidemiology prostatitis symptoms are very common presentation in the clinical setting, tend to occur in young and middle-aged men. However, acute bacterial prostatitis account for the minority of these cases. The risk factors are prostatitis can present in the setting of cystitis, urethritis, or other urogenital infection. Underlying conditions such as functional or anatomical anomalies like urethral strictures may predispose to other urogenital infection, can cause increased risk of prostatitis. Prostatitis infection following the urogenital instrumentation, including chronic indwelling bladder catheterization, intermittent bladder catheterization, prostate biopsy are well documented. Peri-procedural antibiotic prophylaxis prior to the prostate biopsy is generally recommended. Low unit symptoms, including those caused by the bacterial prostatitis, also occur frequently in the immunosuppressant patient, like patients having HIV infection. Then in the general population, they are more prone to develop the prostatitis. And the reason is not clear. While immunosuppression associated with HIV certainly increase the risk of prostatitis like other infection due to the low CD4 count or decreased immunity. Other factors, many patients with acute bacterial prostatitis have no clear risk factors. There may be the trauma, there may be the strictures, their dehydration, sexual abstinence have been thought to predispose the prostatitis. However, these factors have not been established by well-controlled studies. The microbiology, the E. coli remains the most common cause of prostatitis, also followed by the Proteus mirabilis. Proteus species 3 to 6%, another Enterobacteriaceae family 3 to 11%, Pseudomonas aeruginosa 3 to 7%, and other percentage is covered by the E. coli. Certain gram-positive cocci like Staphylococcus aureus, Streptococci, and Enterococci have also been implicated in acute bacterial prostatitis, and in particular may result from the bacteremia that accompanies a remote Staphylococcus aureus infection somewhere else. Instrumentation of the prostate have been associated with subsequent acute bacterial prostatitis due to the organism with broad resistance to antibiotics like E. coli, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, and sexually active men may have sexually transmitted urogenital infections such as urethritis and epididymitis along with the prostatitis, who are involved actually in the prostate, in which cases Neisseria, gonorrhea, chlamydia, trachomitis are important pathogens. The problem tend to occur more often in younger men, but age is not the specific risk factors for those sexually transmitted infections. In patients who are travelers from the region to another region, Burkholderia pseudomallei is endemic in southern and southern Asia and northern Australia. And this uncommon organism have also been described as the cause of acute prostatitis and prostatic abscess. There's a fungal prostatic coccidioids have been observed in hosts receiving immunosuppression therapy. The manifestation the patient is not subtle. Patient may typically be acutely ill, spiking fever and chills, malaise, myalgia, dysuria, irritative symptoms like frequency, urgency, incontinence, and pelvic or perineal pain, and the cloudy urine. Men may complain the pain at the tip of the penis, and the swelling of the acutely inflamed prostate can cause avoiding symptoms ranging from the dribbling to the hesitancy to acute urinary retention. Rarely, patient lack these local symptoms and presents instead with constitutional symptoms like or flu-like symptoms in patient most common having the infection, throat infection, other infection. On exam, prostate is firm, edematous, and exquisitely tender on DRE, digital rectal examination. Common laboratory findings are like increased WBC, pyuria, bacteria, occasionally positive blood culture in the bacteremia, and inflammatory markers may be raised like CRP or ESR. In most cases, an inflammation of the prostate can also lead to the elevated serum prostate-specific antigen level. And if the serum PSA is testing for the prostate cancer screening, it should be deferred for 1 month following the resolution of the acute prostatitis. The complication are the bacteremia, epididymitis, chronic bacterial prostatitis, prostatic abscess, metastatic infection, like it can the prostatic the veins go along with the vertebra into the spinal or sacroiliac infection. Patients with underlying valvular heart disease or valvular processes are at risk of endocarditis when prostatitis is caused by certain bacterial pathogens, but not exclusively gram-positive bacteria. These complications are more likely to occur if diagnosis or antimicrobial therapy is delayed. The prostatic abscess, the incidence is currently low with use of appropriate antibiotic therapy. Certain underlying conditions like diabetes mellitus or HIV-related immunosuppression may predispose to the development of prostatic abscess. Signs and symptoms of prostatic abscess are similar to those of the bacterial prostatitis in general, but may persist despite appropriate antibiotic therapy. Fluctuations of the prostate on genital digital rectal examination can suggest an underlying abscess. Boggy prostate. On transrectal ultrasound, abscess appears as hypoechoic or anechoic area with thick wall or peripheral edema. CT findings include the non-enhancing fluid density collections that can be multiseparated or rim-enhancing lesions. How to diagnose on the detailed general physical examination with DRE, edematous standard prostate on physical examination. Laboratory finding, there may be the increased leukocytes, pyuria, bacteria, elevated serum prostate-specific antigen level can support the diagnosis and should prompt constitution of digital rectal exam. In order to establish the microbial etiology, the urine gram stain and culture should be obtained in all men suspected of having acute prostatitis. Gram stain of urine, if positive, can be used to guide initial therapy. Urine culture and sensitivity test to treat appropriately. And there is a segmented urine culture to diagnose the prostatitis. It localizes the bacteria to a specific part of the urine tract by sampling the different parts of the urinary stream with prostatic massage to have the expressed prostatic secretions. Where cultures are negative, negative culture means number of leukocytes are more than 10 on microscopy, favor a diagnosis of inflammatory chronic pelvic pain syndrome, which is non-infective pathology. The segmented urine culture 30 minutes before the test, patient should ask to drink 400 ml of fluid and retract the foreskin, cleanse the glands before specimen collection. The first volume is first 10 to 15 ml of urine voided. Positive culture indicates the urethritis or prostatitis. The second volume is the midstream urine collection of 10 to 15 ml. The patient is asked to void 100 to 200 ml in total, and the positive culture, it explains the cystitis. And after the prostatic massage, express prostatic secretion while holding the sterile container below the glands to catch the secretions. And the positive culture, it indicates the prostatitis. And the third volume is 10 to 15 ml of urine voided following the prostatic massage. Positive culture also includes the prostatitis. How to evaluate blood cultures for the bacteremia? And in severe sepsis, the criteria of sepsis, the hypertension, hematological derangements. In particular, staph aureus is recovered from the urine culture. It is important to perform the blood culture to evaluate whether the bacteriuria reflects seeding of prostate or urine from bacteremia. Imaging studies are generally not indicated in acute bacterial prostatitis unless there is clinical suspicion of abscess. In patients who have persistent clinical laboratory and abnormalities despite appropriate antimicrobial therapy, an abscess can be diagnosed on computed tomography or ultrasonography. The DD, cystitis urethritis, sexually transmitted infections, or bacteremia patient having the prostatitis. Management treatment of the acute prostatitis includes antimicrobial therapy, supportive measurement to reduce the symptom. When to hospitalize when the patient is having the bacteremia or sepsis, or patient have to undergo the IV antibiotic intravenous access, or patient have developed acute urinary retention which warrants the close observation. Antimicrobial therapy regime selection. For patient with acute prostatitis who can take oral medication, trimethoprim sulfamethoxazole, 1 double strength tab orally every 12 hours, or fluoroquinolones, ciprofloxacin 500 mg orally every 12 hours, or levofloxacin 500 mg orally once daily as empirical therapy. The men younger than 35 years who are sexually active and men older than 35 who engage in high risk of sexual behavior should be treated with the regime that covers the Neisseria, gonorrhea, and trachomitis. Some patients with acute bacterial prostatitis may need to be hospitalized for parenteral antibiotic therapy if they cannot tolerate the oral medication or have the bacteremia. In such cases, intravenous levofloxacin, ciprofloxacin may be given with or without an aminoglycosides like gentamicin or tobramycin if the creatinine clearance is normal. Duration of therapy, patient initiated on parenteral antibiotic can be switched to oral antibiotic if drug susceptibility and patient's tolerance allow 24 to 48 hours following improvement in fever and clinical symptoms. We treat with antibiotic for up to 6 weeks to ensure the eradication of infection. For patients who have no prostatic abscess and with treatment have the painless digital rectal examination and they have the sterile urine and normal inflammatory markers, the treatment can be stopped after 4 weeks. Prognosis, it can progression from acute to chronic bacterial prostatitis or inflammatory chronic pelvic pain syndrome is poorly understood. The second is bladder pain syndrome. It is another name of interstitial cystitis. Painful bladder syndrome is a chronic condition characterized by the combination of uncomfortable bladder pressure, bladder pain, and sometimes pain in the pelvis, which can range from the mild burning or discomfort to the severe pain. This is primarily a disease of middle-aged women characterized by fibrosis of the bladder wall with consequent loss of bladder capacity. The currently two most popular theories are an autoimmune mechanism or defective bladder surface lining of the glycosaminoglycans. Pathophysiology. High level of urinary potassium may induce the sensory nerve to depolarize. The sensory depolarization may cause the pain, urgency, and may result in the tissue destruction. The primary changes include the fibrosis of the deeper layer of bladder wall leading to the decreased capacity of the organ, and microscopically the mucosa are thin or denuded. The lamina propria is congested and engorged with a sign of inflammation. The muscles are replaced by the varying amount of fibrous tissue. The lymphatics may be engorged and increased mast cells and lymphatic infiltration may be seen. The symptoms of this syndrome is the persistent urge to urinate, frequent urination, often small amount throughout the day and night, often 60 times a day, suprapubic or perineal pain, dyspareunia, chronic pelvic pain. Worsening of symptoms may occur if person with interstitial cystitis gets urinary tract infection. How to diagnose? Take the chronic history of unexplained bladder irritability and suprapubic pain, frequency and nocturia without incontinence, negative physical examination, and negative urinalysis and culture. It is the diagnosis of exclusion. Cystoscopic findings: the characteristic submucosal pinpoint petechial hemorrhage under 70 ml of bladder pressure, ulceration thought to common but actually are rare. These ulcers are eponym of Hunner ulcers. No evidence of carcinoma and negative cytology. And cystometric studies are essentially normal with the exception of small capacity bladder. There is the Parsons test, potassium test. If no symptoms observed after the instillation of potassium solution into the bladder, then this diagnosis can be excluded. In interstitial cystitis, potassium will leak through the denuded transitional epithelium and will depolarize the sensory nerve endings, causing the urgency and pain. How to manage? It rarely progresses and presents little threat to the patient's life, but it can also cause the intolerable morbidity. The goal of management is the symptomatic relief. There are multiple options like the bladder training program. Patient should be given the bladder diary and ask for the timely wording and use of the distraction and relaxation techniques to keep the schedule, and they gradually try to lengthen the time between scheduled voids and avoiding diary. Intravehicular instillation of dimethyl sulfoxide, most commonly used treatment, can be expected to give at least temporary relief to 50 to 70% of patients. 50 ml of dimethyl sulfoxide is instilled into the bladder by urethral catheter and allowed to remain there for 15 minutes before asking the patient to void. It is repeated every 2 weeks until the relief is obtained. And anti-inflammatory medication like corticosteroid and allothioperin can also be used. It can also help to decrease the pain or inflammation. Sodium pentosan polysulfate is the synthetic heparin, which have anti-inflammatory and anti-angiogenesis effect. In some patients, the bladder distensions can also help to relieve the symptoms after the cystoscopy. And if patient is having relief after cystoscopy, the procedure can be repeated as a treatment if response is long lasting. There's a new concept, transcutaneous electric nerve stimulation and intravesical heparin or intravesical antihistamines. Potassium protocol, if potassium positive patient, in the best results can be obtained with the almiron, the synthetic heparin. Now, in potassium negative cases, the oxybutyrine and dimethyl sulfoxide happen with or without antidepressant effect drugs. Transurethral fulguration and dissection of ulcer may also provide the healing with healthy tissue. And the bladder denervation cystolysis have variable success in relieving the symptoms and increasing the capacity. And the new concept, the permanent pacemaker to control the bladder activity, but short-term variable results are available right now, may help in the future. And if patient is having a small capacity bladder, the augmentation cystoplasty or augmentation cystoplasty with supratrigonal cystectomy is necessary for the patient with intolerable pain or small contracted bladder. And the home management is the emotional support by the family, friends, and other people. The last one is the chronic pelvic pain syndrome. It is also referred as the chronic non-bacterial or abacterial prostatitis, further divided into the inflammatory and non-inflammatory types of prostatic pain syndrome. The patient presentation, how to present: more than 3 months of localized pelvic pain, prostatic pain, perineum, suprapubic, penile, groin, external genitalia, or lower back pain. Pain with ejaculation plus low unit X symptoms, dysuria, frequency, urgency, poor outflow, and may or may not be associated with ED. Symptoms can be difficult to treat. They can recur over time and severely affect the patient's quality of life. Younger men may have a high risk of suffering severe symptoms. How to evaluate history, including inquiry in associated disorder and psychosocial assessment, physical examination, pelvic floor assessment, including tenderness, and digital rectal examination. There is a National Institute of Health Chronic Prostatitis Symptom Index questionnaire which scores the three protocols: pain, voiding, and impact on life. Uroflowmetry to see the stream and post-void residual volume. Segmented urine culture with expressed prostatic secretions. This specimen may or may not reveal leukocytes, but for the diagnosis, EPS and post-prostatic massage volume 3 culture should not identify any bacteria to diagnose this chronic pelvic pain syndrome. The semen analysis and culture, urethral swab for culture to rule out the sexually transmitted infection, urine cytology if the suspicion of bladder malignancy is there, urodynamics to investigate the voiding dysfunction, cystoscopy if the suspicion of stricture, bladder outlet obstruction, or bladder pathology is there, transrectal ultrasonography for the prostate, and prostatic specific antigen. How to treat: there is a conservative therapy, counseling and the biofeedback mechanism, and the education, anxiety and stress reduction. Psychotherapy, focused pelvic physiotherapy for the tenderness of skeletal muscle, gentle exercises, and avoidance of aggravating factors, certain foods and activities. So, an alpha adrenal receptor blockers, most useful for those with associated voiding symptoms and newly diagnosed. Antibiotics, some patient may get benefit from these who present early with a diagnosis of inflammatory chronic pelvic pain syndrome like ciprofloxacin and levofloxacin for 4 to 6 weeks. Antibiotics do not appear effective for long-standing or refractory disease. Anti-inflammatory drugs like NSAIDs, ibuprofen, and 5-alpha reductase inhibitors have anti-androgen effects. Finasteride and dutasteride have the ability to reduce the prostatic glandular tissue and improve the interductal reflex and symptoms in selected cases. Phytotherapies like polyphenolic bioflavonoid with antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties, and Candileton pollen extract, which it has the same effects and mechanism like the previous one. The pentazone polysulfate sodium analgesia with the specialist pain team input. Neuromodulatory therapies like amitriptyline, gabapentinoid, and shown to improve the mean score and the pain scores. Muscle relaxants like the diazepam, prostatic massage 2 to 3 times per week for 6 weeks with antibiotic therapy, limited evidence of benefit, or local heat therapy. If there is a no pathology, then there is no response to the initial treatment, referred to the chronic pain team for the pain management. What is the take-home message for the low urinary tract symptom? UTI is the more common presentation in our OPD in the urology, and detailed history examination and thorough urine examination like to how to read the urine TL and proper and appropriate point of care management may help to alleviate the symptoms. And then the patient who are having the chronic pelvic pain syndrome needs a multimodal therapy. New options like biofeedback and bladder pacemaker may help to manage these pathologies in the future after having the good results from the research purposes. And the proper counseling is the key to stick with the regime which is selected for the patient, and the good hygiene and safe intercourse. Thank you.